Uh-oh. Yeah. K-Rino radio. K-Rino radio. Let's tell them about it. You're listening to K-Rino radio on 90.1. Who is he? What is he? What does he do? Where is he from? H-Town, where the independent grind was invented. Understand, I'm the property owner, you just a tenant. KPFT is the station and location for the really special guests. Good knowledge and information for the coldest on the air. We making a strong case. If you scared of the truth, then you in the wrong place. Every Friday, 11 o'clock p.m. Central. We cooking the game, serving it up, feeding your mental. You can even call in, dial 713, backdoor it with 526 KPFT. We ain't playing with them, we gon' tell it like it is, partner. Out of town, KPFT.org, yeah, we got ya. How'd I get on the airways? I know y'all like, wow, K-Rino radio, homie, starting right about now. Yeah, we got ya. How'd I get on the airways? I know y'all like, wow, K-Rino radio, homie, starting right about now.
Brother Patrick was talking about the system that they got set up. They got to set up. Now we was talking about that on the way here, that they don't have detention because they're sending the children to court. Now you 12 years old going to court. Think about that.
Right.
And then you got to pay a fine. Now the children ain't paying the fine. Who's paying the fine?
Right.
The parents are paying the fine. So and then they put your child on probation for 3 or 4 months. Then that's some more money. This system is based on locking the black boys up now, right. But it also based on making money too at the same time.
And that's another element we touched on a little bit last week that I definitely want to go into is the financial aspect of the school to prison pipeline. Did we mention something about how much money is being generated by the inmates every day that they're coming in and they generate X amount of dollars?
I'm looking at a study. NAACP did a report 2015. It averaged is 22,000 for each inmate. 22,000 for each inmate. And if you're on death row, it's 90 million a year.
Total.
Taxpayer. 90 million total a year if you're on death row.
Right.
So yeah, it moved up back in 2000 and late 90s, it was 10,000 a person.
Right.
So now it went up to 22,000.
Wow, man, that's a lot of money being made. I mean, but you know, with prisons being on the stock market and things of that nature, we already know that the prison industrial complex is big business. And in order for that business to flourish, then those prisons have to have occupants. They have to have occupancy, and unfortunately, the black man has been the biggest victim of that particular process. With, like y'all said, being only 12% of the population, but making up over 40% of the inmates in the system. I'm gonna go back to Big Brother Patrique for a minute. Now you do what's called prison ministry.
Yes, sir.
Explain to people what that is and how you got started in that work and what exactly it is that you do.
Okay, yes, sir. Well, the prison ministry is all about prevention, first of all. We want to prevent brothers from going to prison. We want to reform brothers who are in prison, and we try to do some restoration with brothers who's coming out of prison.
Wow.
You know, so we're trying to reach brothers, you know, before they go, while they in there, and after they come out.
Wow.
You know, with the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, along with some social classes that they can take after they come home.
You said prevention, reform, and restoration.
Yes, sir.
That's a serious 3-step process. If we master prevention, then the other 2 won't even have to even be incorporated. But of course we know that that's not the world that we live in. We live in a world where we absolutely have those, we just spoke about those numbers, so those brothers are definitely in there. And we know that the system is not even set up for reform. definitely not set up for reform, and the fact that individuals are not able to find jobs and have opportunities when they get out, that interferes with the process of restoration. So something I think that Brother Brian was speaking on last week, you mentioned the revolving door. And I think that's one of the things that have intercepted our hopes of restoring a lot of these brothers' lives, because the way that this system is set up is created to send us in that circle and bring us right back in.
Like I was saying last week, the system is not built to reform you. You have to reform yourself.
Right.
Because they want you to stay the same.
Right.
You know, they don't want you to change. So when you go in, you have to start thinking. You have to come up with a plan. Right. The prison don't change you change yourself.
Right.
So you have to come up with a basic plan for when you get out. It's like Brother Patrick said. So you ain't waiting on them to change. It ain't gonna happen.
What steps do you take, Brother Patrick, when you go in and you talk to those brothers? Because you in there behind those walls, and you talking to brothers who have either been accused of or have actually committed all types of offenses. How do you reach them in a way that if you're sitting in a circle with those different types of personalities and those different types of brothers with different backgrounds, how do you begin the process of reform with them?
Yes, sir. The process begins with the concept that you first have to resurrect the spirit of the individual. You know, we go in as spiritual advisors.
Right.
So we're aiming at the spirit of the individual, because the spirit is what dictate the mind, and the mind dictate your behavior.
Come on.
So you really don't change an individual unless you change his spirit.
Wow. And that's a great point, to connect with an individual spirit. How do you do that with the different scenarios of why? Because everybody in prison got a different story and a different route of how they got there. And in a lot of cases, some of these brothers are victims of circumstances that existed long before they were around. It's just like, man, I was born into this particular situation and became a product of that environment. So when you talk to those brothers, is it you sitting around a bunch of them, or are you individually dealing with them? How does that whole? I'm trying to visualize it in my mind.
Well, when I go in most prisons, I meet with the brothers in the chaplain.
Right.
In the chaplain, in the chapel.
Right.
So it's set up like most churches is set up. They come in, they sit in the pews, and then I bring in the spiritual tools for the resurrection process.
Gotcha. And those tools, for those who might not know, I'm 1,000% confident that he's bringing in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which are absolutely life-giving and life-saving messages and words. So, and many brothers and sisters have been transformed just by the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And why do you think that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's, and any one of y'all could take that, why do you think that his words have been so effective, are so effective in the transformation of human life, whether it be individuals who were locked up or just cats on the street?
Well, that's gonna take up the whole show right there, like K-Rino. You know, but
give us the radio version.
but to go straight to the point, one of the biggest pills the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad give us to swallow is God is a man.
Come on.
You know, you can wrestle with that through all of the theology that you need to wrestle with it.
Right.
Because for you to call him a spirit, then what is it that you're calling him? There is no way to even prove a spirit that exists outside of flesh.
Come on.
So you have to take that to its origin. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, is that you have to always look at the nature or the origin of a thing. And the origin of this idea that God is a spirit, this is a brand new idea. You only hear this idea in this civilization.
Right.
If you study any of the ancient civilizations, the Bible was first Hebrew, then it was written in Greek, then it was written in English. So if you just go back one civilization to the Greeks, this is a quick point.
Right.
Greek mythology, they have lots of gods.
Polytheism.
But if you look up all of the gods in Greek mythology, not one of them is a spirit.
Right.
So the question, how did the idea that God is a spirit get in this Greek book if Greeks don't believe that?
Come on now. Come on.
Go ahead, preach.
And go ahead, big brother. Go ahead.
You was right. If you don't have that book, Message to the Black Man, in your library, then you're in trouble, brother. You're doing yourself not a favor, because you got to have that book, Message to the Black Man. And then I'm talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he said God is a man. Think about that. I've been seeing brothers will go to jail for some ticket. That's how strong a black man is. He won't. I mean, you got $500 and you won't pay your ticket. You rather go to jail.
Right.
Think about that. You might fall or hit your head in one of them steel buildings, beds, right?
Right.
But you'll pay because we are strong. Black people are strong. It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA, man. So when Elijah Muhammad said black man was God, that was right on point.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we gonna go into that, because I think that's important as far as tying in what we're talking about tonight. Shout out to Black Cat that just walked in the building, because you hear a lot of people say, the black man is God, the black man is God. What up, God? What up, God? And you hear this terminology, and now in some cases it's kind of become more of a slang that people don't really think about the depth of what they're actually saying. And I think that if people understood what the black man is God actually meant, it would give us more of a sense of value towards ourselves and towards one another. It's not saying that you are the supreme being. It's not saying that you are the originator of the heavens and the earth. It's saying that you are a reflection of him, a descendant of him, and that those capabilities are within us as people.
Exactly.
And I think people kind of get that twisted up, So I think if we knew that, because going back to the whole prison system thing, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when you look at the black man, you look at your brother, your sister, you're looking at God. So why would you seek to harm or attack your brother or sister knowing that he's a reflection of you and you're a reflection of him or her? So I think we got to kind of get that knowledge of self, bro, and that's what y'all hitting on, man. Look, school to prison pipeline got the hood on lock. Y'all want to call in the number 713-526-8737. I have big brother Patrique Muhammad and my big brother Brian Muhammad in the building. We're going to keep it moving along. What role did the manufacturing of crack cocaine and the distribution of guns into the black community, how detrimental was that? We know it was detrimental. How devastating and detrimental was that in terms of why those prison numbers for black men are so disproportionate?
I want to give you a little background, a little history,
Go ahead.
So that everybody can see what I see when you look at a prison today.
Right.
You have to know the history, the origin of this thing.
Go ahead.
The origin of the idea of prison came from Europe. Europe emptied out all of its jails into the colonies. This is how America started.
Right.
It emptied out all of its prisons into America. Now, the first prison in America was started by the Quakers.
Right.
The Quakers locked up inmates, isolated them in an attempt to do something for the inmate and not something to the inmate.
Okay.
And they was after real reform then when it started,
Right.
but it's been far removed since then. Since the late 1700s, they had two prisons, one in Pennsylvania and one in New York. And after the gangsters started selling this illegal alcohol through prohibition, America's answer to the gangsters was the prisons.
Right.
So they started building Alcatraz and San Quentin, all these high maximum security prisons.
Right.
And they became the model throughout the country on how to build these prisons. And from the Civil War in 1861 is really giving birth to when this epidemic of prisons started.
Right.
From the Civil War, then they had the Emancipation Proclamation.
Right.
From the Emancipation Proclamation, you then get the Reconstruction period.
Right.
Through the Reconstruction period, it gave birth to the 13th Amendment. I'm trying to give you the radio version. Now, the 13th Amendment was passed in 1865. It states that slavery had been abolished in America, except when you've been duly convicted of a crime. This is what affects us right here, right now.
Right.
This that they put in place in 1865. You got to hear what they saying. Slavery is abolished except when I've been convicted of a crime. I'm getting all the way up to your answer in just a few minutes.
Do your thing, bro. Yeah, do your thing. Take your time.
In 1970, the total prison population in the U.S. was 200,000. Under the disguise of a war on drugs, in 1980, it went from 200,000 to 2.3 million. That's what we looking at now. 2.3 million got locked up under the disguise of the war on drugs. I don't know if you remember when they had the city under siege.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And look, I used to watch it all the time. I forgot what channel it used to come on. But I used to watch it all the time. But I mean, and that's a great point because like we doing the reboot from last week, so y'all get to hear it this week. But because we actually touched on that last week and spoke about how all the way back to Nixon's presidency, he had one of his aides named John Ehrlichman who came out in 1994 in an interview that he did and stated that Nixon's war on drugs, which was back in the late 60s and early 70s, was all really just a plot to lock up black men and to get black folks and to get white hippies off the streets who were smoking weed and all that. So now what Brother Patrique was speaking of was 1980 and around the Reagan era. And just think about what he said. He's saying from 1980 to now, the 30-something year period, an explosion of millions and millions of inmates took place from, and just in a 3-decade span. Is it that much crime just started being committed all of a sudden? People just woke up one day and started deciding to just go buck wild, or was there a plan in place to create that circumstance? And we know for a fact that there was a plan in place.
And the proof that the plan was in place is because the crime has been going down while the prison population is going up.
Wow, and that don't even seem mathematically possible. But somehow it's happening. You know, it's happening, man. We getting fed. We getting well fed. KPFT.org is the station. K-Rino Radio. We live. If y'all want to call in and join in, the number is 713-526-8737. Brother Patrique Muhammad, Brother Brian Muhammad. Big Brother Brian, you got anything you want to add to this conversation before we move on to the next question?
Yes, sir. Man, I was looking at the movie Kill the Messenger. You know, K-Rino, you know Freeway, Rick Ross, man.
Right.
So got to get him on the show to talk about that cocaine epidemic. But when it hit, man, in the 80s, white folks didn't have no plan then because it hit so fast. And then when they people started smoking, because they always was snorting.
Right.
You know, they was snorting, but when they started smoking rock, then they started paying attention to that crack epidemic.
Right.
When they came out with New Jack City, that kind of gave the black people another idea how to do cocaine, how to sell cocaine. And you know, myself, I was part of it. Right. But it was a revolving door. At that time, they didn't know how much time to give you. You know, when you had got caught with a rock or ounce or something like that. And then when they went to the legislature and came up with some time, and then they started scrutinizing, and then they came up with the war on black boys. That's where that came from.
And two things that I just got out of what you said. Number one, just the discrepancy between the amount of time given black people if you got caught with a rock compared if a white guy got caught with a bunch of powder. You know, that right there points to the systemic angle that was the twist that was put on this thing. But another thing you said that really, I'm glad you brought this up, because it makes me think about when you said New Jack City. What role does Hollywood and entertainment have in terms of promoting and perpetuating that image that's leading our brothers and sisters down those roads? Because they make these movies, and then we tend to get hyped up, man, because we see Nino Brown, we see Old Dog and all these people. And next thing you know, we out trying to emulate that lifestyle, which leads us to jail. Is it a connection? Is this an accident that they making these kind of movies? What's the real deal behind that? And CIA was behind all. How do we figure out how to relay this information that we know, that we speaking about, to that young 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 15, 16-year-old whose mind may not be thinking on that level? He just out having fun, living his life, doing what he do, and we can't come to him dropping the bombs on him like that. How can we still get him and make him understand that it is a plan in place in a way that he'll relate to it?
Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan got the brothers, we got the 10,000 fearless. So we've been going around with the 10,000 fearless trying to help the young brothers. Also, we got that One Houston, One Hood. K-Rino, he part of it. And so we going into the schools. We're going to have to get out in the streets, brothers. We'll have to take over our own neighborhood. I was listening to in Buff, Brother Kofi, who was at a press conference about the neighborhood, about brothers shooting brothers. And we're talking about the police shooting us. He said, well, we take over our own neighborhood, we ain't got to worry about the police. We can take that. So that's what we're going to have to do, man. We're going to have to get in the community. I'm talking about getting there strong and start taking these young brothers, because some of them didn't have no fathers. Some of them fathers went to jail. Some of them fathers died. Mothers died. So they lost, brother. We got to get out there. We definitely got to get out there in the hood.
Right.
Yes, sir. I want to say this, Brother K. You know, it's a lot of psychology that's going to go along with that answer that you asking. How you going to get this in these youngsters' head that ain't trying to hear nothing? You know, it's an old saying that I like. It, you know, that each one teach one. But in this case, I'm going to say, you know, it takes somebody with that same experience that he's having to help him with what he's going through. You know what I'm trying to say? If you never did drugs, or if you never been on the street selling drugs, you might not be the one that can reach Lil Johnny who doing drugs and selling drugs.
Right.
You know, if you ain't never had a major, you don't know what Lil Johnny feeling because he didn't got him a major. You understand?
That's right.
And everybody who haven't had a major is square to him. So he ain't really trying to hear that. So it takes some of us who done had a major to go back, I'm talking about, and teach Lil Johnny what's the end result of what you're doing. You know, but like I said last week, the first thing you got to go in and do is build a rapport with Lil Johnny. I got to meet Lil Johnny where he at. I got to go in and talk to Lil Johnny about his interests in life. And me and him can then participate in some of the things he like, and from there you can start interjecting that wisdom to help Lil Johnny get to the next level.
I never touched a basketball, never watched a game in my life, but I'm gonna try to coach a basketball team. Yeah, you gotta be able to have experience, man, in reaching these brothers and these sisters. You know, and especially the sisters too, because we got into this last week too. We want to reiterate, a lot of sisters going to prison. They going to prison too, and they seem to sometimes be forgotten in this whole conversation, because it's always been a plot kill a male, spare a female. But in a lot of cases, the female not even getting spared because they locking her up too. Do we have prison ministry for women too? We talked about this last week, but we want to get it for the listeners who didn't catch it.
Yes, sir. By all means, we have sisters in the ministry that also goes to the female prisons and teach the females. You know, the 75% of the messenger's work was with the woman.
Right.
You know, so it's a lot of teachings from a woman's perspective that help women, because they say when we teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation.
That's right.
You know, and that's how you have to start interpreting the scriptures. That when you read about a woman in the scriptures, you're not reading about an individual, you're really reading about a nation.
Right.
You know, for example, when the virgin gonna conceive, that ain't a woman who ain't never had a man. That's a nation of people who ain't never had a man from God.
Come on now, come on. Break them analogies down. Break them analogies down. I mean, we have to learn how to properly interpret scripture if we want to receive the full benefits of the scriptures. Otherwise, we just reading some words. And you know, these brothers are doing a great job of doing that. If people want to, if somebody listening right now and they like, well, man, I got my son or my nephew or my cousin, whoever it is locked up, and they want to have access to you or prison ministry, how do they get in touch with you? How are they able to do that?
Well, they can call me direct, man. You're at 281-216-4009.
Repeat that for me.
Again, that's 281-216-4009.
Okay. Now another thing we want to get into, we kind of tapped on it a little bit, but I was thinking about something that Mr. Farrakhan said. He was saying that self-improvement is the basis of community development. So rebuilding our family structure, I think, is a very viable way of being able to prevent our youngsters from going to prison somewhere down the line, even if it is a situation where it may be a single parent household, where it be a single mother raising it. We got to tie ourselves together to each other as a community again and try to figure out ways to be more family oriented in our neighborhoods to get back that old essence, that old principle of family. And I think that would stop a lot of our brothers and sisters getting locked up, because we'll be rooted in those principles. Do y'all have anything to add on that? Go ahead, big brother Brian.
Yes, sir. You said it, man. I was at one of my cousin's funeral Thursday. May God be pleased with him. And I was looking into the audience, and I said, man, my mama and them taught me family. And you touched on that. We have to go back to family. We don't sit down at the table and eat, you know, together. You know, somebody might come in, you know, when your son might come in, he might get him a plate and he go to the room, or your daughter might go somewhere, or they sitting at the table on a computer, tablet, or watching Facebook. So we have to get back into the family part of it. K-Rino, you're definitely right about that, man, because we're not getting family orientated no more. Everybody's doing their own thing. I got a granddaughter 4 years old, and she can go get on the remote control and turn on YouTube.
Right.
You see, so the technology is out there, but the discipline ain't there no more in the family.
Are we scared of our own children these days? Is that a real statement to say that a lot of parents are scared of their own children?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, I'm going to go back to that last question, then I'm going to tie it into that one. Okay. You know, in my opinion, the black family, we're going to have to be re-educated. Right. You know, no matter what we think, all of the knowledge that we have came from the public school and the church. I got it from my mama, who got it from her mama, who got it from her mama.
All the way back.
But it always came from the church and the school. Now, the wisdom or the knowledge that we was given in these schools and these churches has not freed us up to this point. So we have to be re-educated in what we call supreme wisdom.
Right.
You know, the devil or the enemy, if you will, he broke us down under the 32 degrees of knowledge that he has,
Right.
so that he could rule us.
Right.
Now, when God comes, he'll bring a knowledge higher than the knowledge that they use to enslave us. That's why I'm saying we're going to have to be open to be re-educated
Come on.
and understand that the ideas that we have about God and about family and about nation have to be changing. Because, you know, I'm just give you for one example. This is what I always run into. You know, at best, in a relationship, they say this thing is 50-50.
Right.
I think a man lose all of his position when he agree to go into a relationship with a woman 50-50.
Okay.
When the scriptures clearly say, I'm the head of the house.
Come on now, come on. Let's get in trouble real quick. Let's get in trouble real quick. Speak on that. I mean, because that's a fact. You know, the scriptures say that God is the head of man, man is the head of woman, woman is the head of child. Go ahead, big
But
brother.
let me tie that into your second question about whether or not we scatter our children.
Yes, sir.
Well, because all of the real men is missing, you have no law in the household.
Wow.
The woman, I know she say she can raise her son, but listen, a man, the woman cannot be an example for the man. I'm talking about what a man look like.
Yeah, no doubt.
She can give him a lot of good principles and raise him on standards and principles, but he have no example of what a man look like.
Right.
You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put it like this. You know, he a lion. He roar like a real lion,
Right.
and the only way that me and you know how to roar is because we met with a real lion.
Right. That's right.
So
That's right.
you know, so the sons of these single mothers have no example if the uncles don't come around.
And
If
a pussycat can't wake no line up.
Pussycat can't make no line up, brother.
so we not female bashing. All I'm saying is, will the real men stand up, and then you'll start seeing a difference, not only in the individual, but then with the family, and then with the nation.
Man, that's strong teaching right there, man. And that's what it boils down to, man, and that's why I asked that question, because it seems like a lot of times we get caught up in this mode where we trying to be friends to our children instead of being parents to our children, and they get to that point, because at some point they gonna all reach that point where they get a little hair on their chest and they gonna want to buck up. And if there's no man there to kind of contend when that moment comes and them bucking up, then guess who they're going to be bucking up to? They're going to be bucking up to mama. And the parents, the mothers are doing the best that they can. And in a lot of cases, they've done a great job. But it's no substitute. That would be the same as saying, because I don't want any sisters to be out there feeling offended by what we're saying, because that would be the same as a single male parent feeling like he could raise a daughter better without the aid of a woman.
Right.
So we just in that situation where by the man being the head, we have to figure out a way to step into those roles. And sometimes stepping into that role doesn't necessarily mean that you are the actual father of that child,
Right.
or the head of that particular family. It's like old school.
Right.
That's
Hey,
right.
man, you see the youngster getting out of line, you do what you got to do as a man to get him right,
Right.
because it could save his life or save his freedom somewhere down the line, man. And man, we in here getting it tonight, man. The school, the prison pipeline, Brother PATRIQUE Muhammad, Brother Brian Muhammad in the building. The number to call in, y'all don't be scared, man. The number is 713-526-8737. We want to go into the place of religion in the prisons, because we know a lot of people, they get in jail and they find religion, and some find it for real. Some find it just when they're in there. Then when they get out, it's back to the business as usual. But I have seen examples where individuals have went to prison and they have, like you said, Brother Brian, changed themselves and have found that religion or whatever title that it's under. Because I've seen Muslims, Christians, whoever, and they just took it upon themselves and live by those principles. Why is it that we tend to wait till we get locked up to try to find religion.
Well, you
or
know,
find God. Some people don't like the word religion or whatever. However you want, spirituality, however you want to look at it.
well, this how I look at it, brother K-Rino. You know, it's the difference in God and the power of God. And in some cases, we just looking for some power. Because I've gotten to prison, I've reached the limit of my own physical power. I understand now that I'm powerless.
Right.
So now I'm reaching out trying to find some power. You follow me?
Right.
And it's like these lights we got on in here.
Right.
You know, I'm not necessarily caring whether it's TXU. I don't care if it's Intex, if it's Centerpoint, if it's Ambit. I mean, whoever name, I don't care about the name.
Come on now.
The power is what I want.
The light, the power. Come on.
Now, whatever name that power coming in, I don't really care about that because I just want the power.
Right.
And that's how I look at this religious thing. Because until a person really do any kind of in-depth study, you know, they need to get acquainted with the power of God before you start arguing about the name. Because once we all under the power of God, you can name him whatever you want to.
Right.
You can name him Leroy if you want to.
That's right. And you know, it's funny. It made me think about. I was on this. I was getting interviewed on this radio show. Some Hebrew Israelites had brought me on one time, and they tried to sabotage me once I got on the air. They was acting like they wanted me to come on for the music, but when I got on the air, they started trying to hit me with some questions on my beliefs. And I repeated something that Minister Farrakhan said, and I repeated when he said that if Prophet Muhammad and Jesus lived in the same time, they would walk together because they acted on the same principles.
That's right.
And I think that's basically what you're saying. And I think we touched on some about that last week, how we was talking about how some of the brothers in prison, they could all call themselves Muslims, but if this is a brother in the nation, this brother is a Shiite or a Sunni or whatever he's calling himself at that particular time, they end up bumping heads on ideologies instead of concentrating on us being free.
That's right.
And those are things that we can hash out at some other time, but we got to focus more on the bigger picture. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
a good teacher. Go ahead, big brother.
Yeah, let me, the question you asked about people find God when they're in prison, what happened to me, in my opinion, they already had God in, but they didn't practice when they got locked, and when they was out in the world, they were doing their thing until they got caught. So the thing is, to me, once they got in, they say they saying that didn't work while I was out there. You know, so now that I'm in, I'm gonna try God now.
Yeah.
So people say, man, you found God when you was in. Everybody go to prison and find. That ain't the point. They had God before they went in.
Right.
But now they got time to think about it.
Yeah, no, you had no other options.
You had no other options.
You
That's
sit
right.
down. Yeah.
So they found God because they found out that the other system they was doing wasn't working for them.
Right. Yeah, that's strong. What are some of the solutions that we can focus on moving forward? Because you know, we all know that a day is going to come where it's not going to be a need or even a place for prisons because this world is on its way out and the new world is coming in.
That's right.
But right now, the way things are right now, what are some of the solutions? And I heard Brother Brian speak about it a minute ago, how we go into the schools and things of that nature, but are there any other solutions that we can offer that could possibly say, because I think sometimes, man, you know, when I'm in the hood and I see certain things, I just have the mentality, like when I'm looking at some of these youngsters out in the street, I be like, man, they don't even know the road that they're going down. They don't even know the traps that's being laid out for them.
Yeah, that's right.
They just living life.
Yeah, right.
And it's not like it was when we was growing up.
Right.
You know, and I ain't talking like I'm 75 years old, but even just back in the days, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
So as bad as things was a whole lot more innocent for us coming up than it is now. So what are some of the solutions that we can probably offer to try to save some of our young brothers and sisters?
Well, you know, it's a concept that we have to look at. You know, from your last question up to this question, you know, when you really look at this prison concept, well, what we so-called look at them as locked in there while we're out here, when in there and out here is prison. You understand? We're in prison out here.
No doubt.
Our cell just a little bit bigger.
Come on.
You understand? We still got chow time and rack time out here.
Right. Come on, man.
You know, we so-called free.
Right.
You know, and one of the real solutions, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say this. He said that this is the best and the only solution between these two people is this Muslim program and total separation. You know, until we really begin to really start, I'm talking about thinking on the idea of us moving to our own separate territory and getting from up under this Constitution, we really not making no real moves. Cause this is another thing I just want to say too, man. You know, this paper chasing, that we own. Do you understand that these people have a 400-year jump on stacking paper? There's got a good job or self-employed. These people got wealth stacked on top of wealth on top of wealth.
Right.
Yes, sir. But let me say this here, K-Rino, on that question. We have to go back into educating ourselves. First, we got to realize that the school system doesn't work for the black children. We got to first realize that the doctors ain't working, the lawyers, the police officers ain't working for us. So once you get educated on that, then we can probably get the family together, because right now we're not educated. We got the prison pipeline from the school. We got CPS taking our children, breaking our families up.
Wow.
We got but if we look at it, we got a whole system working against them.
Right.
But you first got to get proper educated. You got to find them a Neil Morris or somebody that can educate them on how the system is. The enemy is, they don't know. Black people don't know what they got an enemy. They think it just happened. You think my son just went to jail for this? He did something. He went to jail.
Right.
So you know, if you they call you and say your son went to jail, blah blah blah. You don't question that. You take the man's word.
Right.
You know, you don't question that. But so we got to get educated on this system, man. This system is against us.
And we're not gonna be able to do that if the majority of our children are still attending the public school.
That's right.
And so what has to happen to give us as parents the understanding of everything that you just said and make us feel comfortable withdrawing our children from the killing fields, which is the public school? Because we can't get the proper education if we still are putting our children in the very place where the false education is being taught.
Right. So they first got to get educated on that, because a lot of people think they can't take the children out of school, think they're going to go to jail. You can get a waiver off the computer and take your child out of school. You can get a waiver to stop them from getting that MMR shot that they doing. We teach about that.
Right. The vaccine.
The vaccine shot. That MMR shot is turning the children to the ADHD. You know, getting them what they call
autism.
Yeah, right. That MMR shot. I got to take my child. You don't have to. They talking about they can't get in school. You can get a waiver. That's what I'm talking about. You have to get educated on these type things before you can get them out the school system.
Well, so the parents are not only scared of the children, they scared of the system too.
That's right.
Because if you have individuals who are dictating to you as a parent how you should not discipline your child or discipline your child, vaccines, the things you should teach them. So it's a war going on all those fronts. So really, at the root of it is the parent.
That's right.
That's right.
Would that be
Trust your sister.
would that be fair to say? At the root of it is the parent. We got to get stronger as parents in terms of taking back the control, because again, we go back to our childhood, and I think we spoke on this last. Look, when you would try to play your mama back in the days, and man, I'm gonna call the child abuse number. She be like, call them. You know, I dial the number for you, and if you hear when they get here, then congratulations. So I mean, that fear has to be removed from us as parents, worried about what these so-called powers are gonna do to us as parents in terms of raising our children, because they are trying to kill our children and we letting it happen.
Yes, sir. You know, what we asking for is freedom, justice, and equality.
Come on.
You understand? Now, if you're in a relationship, just personal relationship with somebody, and can't get freedom, justice, and equality, you for whatever reason you and her can't get along, what's the next step?
Separation.
That's all I'm saying. As a people, when we can't get along with these people, well, that's our next step. We just haven't really consummated that concept in our head yet.
Well, we have this thing in our mind that we gon' love the hate out of them. We gonna love them. We gonna kill them with kindness until they just had no choice but to love us at some point. And we dealing with a nature that's not gonna ever.
That's right. What we looking for in him does not exist, in him.
In it. So that will probably be the biggest holdback in that situation is that we're trying to convince our brothers and sisters that, look, man, this world don't love us and it never has loved us. It only utilizes us to the extent that it can benefit from us, whether it be fighting in their wars or whatever the case might be. So I mean, I think that we have been super fed. We touched on a lot of stuff that we touched on last week, but we went into some more stuff tonight that was deeper than last week.
We need to add one more level, brother K-Rino, like we did last week. And I always wait till the end. I don't know why.
Go ahead, big brother.
But you know, they killing two birds with one stone with this school to prison pipeline. Okay. It's not just the money that's going to be made in the end from the corporations, but if you believe in scripture and you know that we living in the last days, all of the wise of this world know that the Messiah is due.
Okay.
So with all of the incarceration, with all of the gay, lesbian, QT, well, I don't even know how to say it all, but you know, with all that whole thing they whole mission is to stop us from reproducing and producing the Messiah. Not just the one individual, but a nation of people who's coming to rule this planet, man.
Man, see, that's when you said earlier about you can't fathom the depths of Satan.
That's right.
Everything that you just said, it speaks to that point, because there's so many of us that would never tie that together like that. It's all, man, that's a separate issue. The education is a separate issue. The prison is a separate issue. No, it's all tied in together. It's all linked in together because of what you're saying about preventing the rise of a black Messiah that they know is coming, but in the majority of the cases, we as black people don't even know it's coming.
That's right.
So that's the thing. It's like a lot of times people don't give the devil the credit he deserves for being as wise as he is.
That's right.
and that's a mistake that we tend to make. So we got to ramp up our knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, our education, and getting our heads on straight, so we won't be caught up in the bear trap, in the snares. These brothers, man, I mean, see, look, let me tell y'all something, man. It's going to be a whole lot of episodes like this, you know, where I bring people in that's coming in to teach, man, and because this is an opportunity for me to actually teach and be taught. So I'm very grateful to have these brothers on. We got a couple of more minutes. Do we have a call?
Yeah, George.
Okay, we got a call coming. We'll take one call in the final hour. We got a call coming in. Caller, you on the line? I can't hear you. Can y'all hear?
I can hear George.
Okay, well, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, you can pass the word around to your neighbor, and your neighbor can pass the word around to her neighbor. Your kinfolk can pass it around. You know, that's the way we're gonna get, because they're afraid of the government. Sir, they're afraid. People are afraid of the government, and I applaud you for stepping up, man, because that's your baby, man. That's your baby. So her life depends on it. There's three people that we trust. We trust the doctor, we trust the police, and the preacher. So when you trust them, you can put all your trust in them. So good thing you ain't putting your trust in the doctor, man. But that's gonna be the only way that I know that you can get it out, by spreading the word among yourself, among your people.
Man. Well, let me say this too, Mr. George. You know, the best way to educate yourself is by asking questions, and the question you have to ask yourself is, do you know what is all in that needle? See, when you don't know what's all in that needle, we know what they say is in there, but because I don't know what's all in that needle, and it has been proven that they will just do stuff with that needle that's not godly. You know, they got plenty of projects that prove that they would just do stuff with this needle. So the best way to educate, I think, is to just ask anybody who's getting the vaccine, do you know what all is in that needle? And because we don't, that's why we don't vaccinate.
Let me say this. You got the number. Get with K-Rino. We got a DVD out that we pass out, and you can see that we own it. CDC. We own CDC, the Center Disease Center, and it got one of the Kennedy. He talks about the vaccination. And you can get this tape from K-Rino, and then you can pass that around, man. It's a profound DVD about the MMR vaccination. You definitely need to get that CD.
Thank you, George. Appreciate you. And once again, man, we got to wrap up, guys. But I want to thank y'all so much for listening, man. This is a very, very, very deeply informative episode of K-Rino Radio tonight. I want to thank my brothers Patrique Muhammad and Brian Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
For doing a reboot and coming back again.
We want to thank you for inviting us, brother K-Rino.
Anytime, bro. Yes, well fed. I feel like I just left Golden Corral somewhere, man. I'm full, man.
Praise due to Allah.
Make sure y'all tune in next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, man. K-Rino Radio. One love. We appreciate y'all. God bless.